copies. What the hell are we talking about next?
Nobody knows.
Oh, yeah. All right, Jay. Back by popular demand, okay?
Oh, no.
We must give the people what they want. We must talk about more Trench Crusade.
Oh, no. No.
Yes! The Crusade must never end.
Oh,
so...
Am I stuck in this trench forever?
Yeah, we need to figure out...
Thanks, algorithm.
Right now, Mr. Algorithm. We need to figure out why the hell we don't have a 3D printer in the corner of our store, and why we're not just literally printing free money and making Trench Crusade happen in our shop.
The freest of
why?
money. So
why aren't more hobby shops?
Stop there? Why don't we have a bank of Bitcoin mining and?
Yeah.
I mean, we probably should.
A mainframe. Is that what the kids call it these days?
That's a big word.
That's a big word for me to use. Why? I guess getting into the bigger topic of like, why aren't more hobby shops utilizing 3D printers as part of their business model? I guess that's the topic we'll go into today. We use Trench
qualified to answer that? Because
we're not qualified to do any of this, so I don't see how that's. What's that got to do with anything?
That's true. That is very true. We don't actually know why anyone watches us, to be honest. It's just nothing makes sense.
It's for the Tim's coffee.
The Tim's,
the brand, the marketing,
which I will not give them.
He won't acknowledge that.
I will not give them a cent
out of his nondescript
of
cup.
my nondescript. Ugh.
So why are you getting in the way of
question.
why are you getting in the way of us making all this money? I guess
I'm getting in the way. I guess I would be.
Well, you are the printophile or whatever.
I'm the printophile. I'm also the head of IT in this tiny company. So
Thank God.
It would be on me to figure it out, which I'm not.
I think the lights would be on without you, buddy.
Very interested.
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to say, because I've had enough conversations with printer people that do print as one of their hobbies is printing, and most of them to a T say that they'll actually argue that it's actually a lot of work to do it well, and it's not for everyone, kind of thing. And so they would probably be like, they're not usually the ones that are like, oh, you should be doing this. They're just kind of they're almost like, no, it should be, you need an expert, and you should be charging more, like it's like an extra job or whatever, because they've created little businesses out of doing the printing themselves. So their whole sales pitch is like, no, you shouldn't do it yourself, because you know what you're doing. Let me do it for you and make sure it's right.
Right.
And all that does is reinforce a bit of what I already kind of knew, which is why I never wanted, or I still don't want to do it at the store. It's just so many hours for, I don't know if it's enough gain. And also no one I know that seriously prints does it as a job. They're all hobby thing that maybe makes a few dollars sometimes. And,
so I think this whole question comes from people like that. Not all the people like that, but some people like that. They've got the 3D printer. It's working for them really well. They like it a lot. It's and we've talked about this in previous videos where it almost becomes a hobby to itself, right? Where you get into that and you like doing the file thing. Maybe you do a little sculpting yourself, and you kind of that. It's really cool. It's its own thing. And I've explained that's also the reason why I'm not interested in doing it, because I don't want another hobby, especially that, and that's just not my interest. But I think people like that, they'll print some things for their friends, and maybe they make a few bucks selling some minis, and all of a sudden in their head they're like, well, I'm like nobody. I'm printing some models and I'm making some money off this. Why the hell aren't stores doing this? If it's easy to make a buck, and it's like it's a product where the materials are very cheap, and there could be a lot of filler kind of profit built into that, right? You could have a large margin, I guess, on something like that.
Yeah, but it's like the margin on a can of cola. It's like, so what?
That's where I kind of was going with it. Is it sometimes stuff like that seems really good because you're dealing in really small numbers, but it's extremely difficult to scale up.
Yeah.
For a whole business to be doing it, right?
Yeah.
So, objectively, I think here's a few I think reasons why you wouldn't do it in a hobby shop. My number one thing is obviously space.
Yeah.
You
need special room for it. which is not room that you're selling other or doing it. It's just purely it's a factory. It's space dedicated to manufacturing.
It's a manufacturing thing, and we're living in a time where rent is and rent's always been crazy, but like we have cost of living crisis everywhere in the world, and retail space is like unhinged expensive. So like hobby shops are already like fighting against that. Most hobby shops are pretty small already and don't have a lot of space to give out anyways, right?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to sublet us some other space in an industrial zone where it's like even cheaper maybe. And even then, like something that people aren't aware. I mean, some people are going to be like, it's not that bad, but I don't know. I think if you're going to do it as a store, there's a certain, you are... you're kind of you need to make sure the quality is there, because otherwise, like, no one's gonna, even if it's cheap, people are gonna buy it and be like, this thing sucks because it's like the quality isn't good or something. So let's get that out of the way. That which means that you're going to need like a climate controlled room, and which needs to be like, from everything I've heard, estimates between like 24 and 26 or 7 degrees. Like that means your heating is blasting.
Does it have to be that warm?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Otherwise, you get problems with
casting and curing.
With the curing and casting. Yeah.
Well, also the ventilation's a huge thing, right? Like, I get that there's a lot of people out there just blasting resin printers in their houses, which terrifies me because of the fumes.
Because it's a business, though, you have to be more careful.
We do have to be a lot more careful.
If you have employees or whatever, and what if they get sick? Your business could be sunk because you didn't ventilate your 3D printing room or whatever.
Yeah, you're opening yourself up for a lawsuit, insurance liability, all that sort of stuff, right?
So anyway, and then not to mention the scale part, you may need to have like a bank of them going, which combined with the heating, and there's you're gonna have some bills that are gonna add up for the rent, the HVAC, the hydro bills, all these things.
I will also point out that just generally speaking, I can't speak for every hobby shop in the world, but in my own experience, the people I know in my network, you can go to a Warhammer store and prove this fact, but like retail is a very lean business already. Right?
Yeah.
Like, nobody's hiring extra staff they don't need who have nothing to do. Oh, God, it's the phone sound effect. Again?
It's been a while, yeah.
And...
I'm sure they're looking for surging sparks.
It's not like Jay and I, like, we run 98% of the week ourselves, 99% of the week ourselves. We have a little bit of help occasionally for sickness or vacation or, like, Friday night.
We have Matt on Fridays.
We got Maddie on Fridays. Yeah. I don't know, I haven't seen him in a while. So
we need to put him in a video. It would actually be pretty fun.
That'd be fun, actually. Maybe we'll do a Christmas special with Matt.
Christmas special. Our extremely part-time employee.
Yeah, he's a funny guy, too.
He would
He'd
just
be
make
good.
fun of us the whole time, yeah.
It's true. Like, Matt, don't say anything too real, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that's a really real conversation that people forget about labor costs a lot of the time, right? So, like, there's this, I think, like, paradoxical relationship with like these 3D printers where people that use them a lot kind of forget how finicky they can be and how much you kind of have to know how to use them, and they think of them because they use them all the time. Maybe they don't think about that stuff. They're not billing their own time to themselves, so they're not really thinking about that. But like in a business sense, all the stuff you're doing, whether it's like interfacing with the printers, putting an order through. We'll talk about the other stuff in a minute, but just using the printers and loading them up and unloading them and check all the quality control you'd have to be doing. That's time. That's a ton of time that you're adding to the cost.
You're probably, and if someone's buying it from you online or whatever, they're going to expect you to ship it like, with the supports clipped off and all, they're not going to want just like a raw. That, by the way. You're going to like it's extra labor. It's a lot of extra labor. That you're again, if you're like Chris just said, if you're doing it personally, you don't build those hours in your head, but that's hours that you're And then what if you got, so let's say like you got your day at wraps, you're like in the last third of your day and you're like, I got boxes to ship, I got boxes to pack and ship, I got to clean the store, I got someone calling me asking me about blah blah blah, or you have accounting to do, and now you got to go clean some supports. Make sure all these pieces aren't effed up or whatever.
To make like maybe $20 or something. Like that's the thing, right?
Or you could just put a box of space.
I think fundamentally you're forgetting that like because we rely on the income and we need sure things. It's a lot easier to sell the things we have in the shop already and make the margin that we're making on that stuff. You know what I mean? And then just keep supporting that part of the business. This whole extra, you're basically asking in a lot of ways to add a new type of business to your business, and then figure out the logistics and add it in.
Yeah. I mean, someone's gonna probably say, well, if you get it up and running, you throw your money in, you get it up and running, you can pay a guy to do it all for you, and you're like, I guess, but then it has to be really banging to like.
Here's the other issue. I think like before
you got to be printing like armies every day to make that up. Like,
yeah, I think one of the problems too you get into is like, who are these customers that are going to come in and use this service?
I know.
Like, I do wonder a little bit, right? Like, if you're the type of person that wants 3D printed models, like, why are you not just doing it yourself? It's that cheap, right? Like, it's not that expensive to get a resin 3D printer. We're really talking about
as specialized as it was.
We're talking about like a really small sect of people that like don't want to print at home but want the printed models, right?
Yes.
And those people exist. I'm not disputing that, but I'm not convinced it's a large amount of people.
No.
Yeah. Do you also think like there's an element of like, and people will hate that I'm saying this, but it fundamentally, like 3D printed models, especially proxies and stuff like that, undermine the products you're selling every day in your shop, right?
Well, yes.
We have to kind of acknowledge that.
That's the other question in the store. Yeah. There's again, I've read the comments. There's always the kind of the guys who have the businesses that are like, oh, the whatever, just sell it all. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's one way. But yeah, you are like actively crushing what you have on the wall already. Like, and so I don't know. I feel like you're running a different business, I guess.
So like you could use
it's hard to put them together.
A card analogy to a point where you're like, why aren't card stores printing proxies of cards and selling them for less money?
Yes.
It's just it's a lot of work and it kind of undermines your business model. Right?
Yeah.
Like it kind of does, right? And I think we're, as much as we like people hate on us for like saying these things out loud that are things we think about, we have to think about them. We're very supportive of 3D printing. Like I tell people all the time, I'm like, yeah, use the hell out of it for like making your bases look awesome, conversion opportunities. I just got a really nice custom Temple Guard conversion kit from a gentleman in Europe who like hand sculpted all these upgrade packs, and I love it because it just goes right on the Saurus Warriors. So like I don't have to use a 3D printed model. I can use the Games Workshop pieces and add to them.
Yeah,
I think that's a great. Like nobody loses there, right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that I'm all about, but yeah, that's kind of where I kind of fall off of it a little bit. I'm like, who's going to be using this service? How much investment the store has to put into it? This is, every time I'm like close to thinking, oh, maybe we'll have some printers one day, I just start to roll through my head the list of reasons why it might not work. And
The
other thing, I'll share a little story here without naming any names.
Go ahead.
This funny guy who lives in a city like not too far from us. He's a friend of our friends who also owns a hobby store, and he got into like the 3D printing rabbit hole thing. And the funny thing is my buddy would visit his shop because he had some deals he worked out with him. And like every week he went in, the guy would have like an extra printer. Like he was like kind of like just getting into a little bit, and then all of a sudden he had a printer. And then like 6 to 8 months later, it was just a printing store basically.
Yes. Yeah.
And the vibe that he got was just like, what is this place? Like it was just very confusing what the business even was at that point.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because it was such a mess basically, right?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that too, where like you need to have an identity as a store, and I think like someone coming in off the street, if there's just like 6 printers running all the time, like you might be like, where am I right now? This is kind of like
it would be really weird in our store. We'd have to almost wall off.
You would have to wall
it off. Section.
You would, yeah.
Because there's no way someone can look in and just see printers.
Yeah, you need a little side heater to keep these things going.
Oh, you need like the serious heating. Yeah. You need some BTUs to heat that up. Yeah, they would be like, what is this? Yeah.
There's all these little things, right, that like kind of, that you have to, unfortunately when you have a business, you have to think about these little details that obviously someone who's printing at home and is like, why can't
I think we've kind of answered that ultimately it's like, it's hard to be a store and a printing place. You can kind of be one or the other. I think it would just I don't really know how.
Or maybe you have
it's a completely side business,
magical massive space where you can do it, and it's not interfering with your business.
Access to an extra room somewhere. Then I suppose you could make it a business.
But then the question is, and I'll always say this too, is could you just do something else and make more money?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
And I think that's always a fair question,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
It's the other reason why, like, and this will be for any of you that stayed through 15 minutes, which is probably nobody.
I know. Yeah.
No one stayed
as soon
this
as
long.
we talked about.
I'll actually get to
printing,
Trench Crusade here because I think it's
okay.
worth discussing
Yeah.
and kind of tying it back in. Is ultimately, if we walked through this whole process and said, okay, we got a couple printers, we're going to do the Trench Crusade thing, even though it wasn't a retail option. So we kind of have to be breaking the law a little bit, I think.
Yeah, sure.
I'd have to be buying the pledges and then selling them, which I think is literally not allowed. But
It's not.
let's pretend I did that. I'm a shady individual.
Okay.
Very shady individual.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I got paid my $600 for the whole shebang, and I'm gonna print this to oblivion or whatever, and I'm gonna just. So I'm selling these crews for like $40 to $80 a popper or whatever.
Probably less than that. I don't. Maybe.
Whatever, whatever I can sell them for. And
all 7 people who want it.
The analogy here is going to be like it's going to generate the kind of interest that like a Necromunda or like a Blood Bowl kind of does, because it's a small boutique game. And you might go, well, that's not fair. It's like, okay, well, I'm also not going to invest like the amount of promotion time that I do into something, say like Warhammer 40,000, something that literally pays my bills every month, right? Mm-hmm. So it's maybe, let's be generous here. Maybe I go nuts. Maybe I sell 40 crews.
Holy,
which would be incredible. Like that would be
have,
an insane feat, right?
Yeah,
to my local community or whatever.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here? Like money wise, right?
Yeah, like maybe $1,000 in total.
and some people are like, how dare you? Like, that's a lot of money. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that is a lot of money. But in retail like this, it's actually not. No. And when we just go back to the beginning of the video, when we talked about all the stuff that you have to do to make this happen, it's taking away from you just running your business on a regular day, where someone could, 10 customers could come in and all spend $100, and you just...
Talk about an average
had a nice
Thursday.
Conversation with them, and that's all you did, right?
You described an average Thursday. It's like just walk in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When you have a well-established store, that's what business is, right? So I think just like try to. I know it's hard when you don't have the experience of running a shop or being in a shop. Not everyone gets that experience. It's sometimes it's hard to forget about all it. To think about all those other little mitigating factors, right? There's so many things.
And even doing it this let's call it efficient way that you just described, my days still blow by, and I don't know how they do, because there's still so much work to do. So I don't.
Here's the thing. I'm gonna become.
I couldn't fathom.
I'm gonna take a step
dealing
further.
with some prints right now on top of all the responsibilities I have.
I know. Yeah. I'm going to take it one step further with the Trench Crusade thing, and this is not to insult anyone, because, like I said, go back to our other video. You can watch us talk about it.
We got to stop disclaimering this, people.
I know. Just go in and just start. Just start firing. Okay.
Yeah.
The other element that I think is often not discussed, and this is, we learned this lesson from working in GW back in the day when they had specialist games on the wall. Sometimes these small games can be a distraction. We just talked about how much money you can generate from this game. It's not Warhammer 40,000. It's not Age of Sigmar. It's not even Corvus Belli Infinity. Like, you will run out of things to buy for this game very quickly.
Yeah.
And then where do you go, right? Yeah. And you might say, oh, this greedy shop owner Chris, all he thinks about is the money.
Yeah.
I'm
actually.
Reminder.
Yeah.
I might remind
Actually,
you.
yes.
I might remind you that like, I have to worry about the money tomorrow and the next day and the day after that.
Forever.
It feeds my children. It keeps us, a roof on our heads.
Yeah.
So I have to think about that, unfortunately. And it is a little selfish. I get that's the case, but it is one of the things working against a game like that, where there's like a limit to how much you can buy for it. It's extremely complicated to kind of get it up and running. These are all the things that are working against it. Versus like, maybe we'll talk about this comparison in a future video, but like a game like BattleTech, where it was a Kickstarter, but then it came to retail, and I have to put these little type packages on the wall, and everything's great, and it's nice, and it just generates some money on the side, and like I don't have to think about it too much.
No,
and that's kind of nice.
BattleTech
right?
is the example of how it can function really well in the retail thing, and it was. Now it has something that Trench Crusade doesn't, which is like
An old IP. Yeah.
an incredible old IP
Yeah.
that was remastered in a way that it just and the marketing and everything else they did to go with it. But still, there are some parallels for sure.
We'll see. I mean, like, maybe the Trench Crusade guys understand the value of the marketing, and they spend some bucks, and they go to Adepticon, and then they have like a booth, and then they, maybe they try to do that, right? Who knows? Like, it's possible.
It's not. Oh, yeah.
I'm not ruling
it's
it
not
out.
too late for no. It could springboard into a real thing for sure. Yeah, I don't know. This also is underlined by like it's just so hard to break into the market.
Yeah.
Into a retail market in general right now.
I think we've laid that out, right?
It's so I don't even blame these guys.
No.
Or anyone that does the Kickstarter route to build their little game and make a buck. Like it's probably the only way they would. If they probably went the traditional way, they'd probably just
You have to be rich.
run out of money.
You have to be rich.
You have to be
rich.
rich.
Yeah, you have to be swimming in money, basically, because you just got to put all the capital. I mean, funny enough, it's like actual capitalism, but like where you invest heavily and then like you're basically making a bet on yourself to make more money.
Even then, it's so hard right now. It's very difficult. Yeah, I don't even know if it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, distributor will look at your game and be like, "Why should I care?" And it's funny because Kickstarter's now become the like prove it to me thing, where it's like, oh, you made $3 million at Kickstarter. Okay, distributor will now look at you, and you might get a meeting.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
and then you got to give this crazy presentation why you think you can make another $3 million because they might just be like, oh, I think it's over.
Yeah. Tell me why you didn't just sell something to all of your fans and then that's it. Right. Like these are legitimate questions, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. It's hopefully. You're not. Obviously, you've turned off the video by now. But, because I've offended so many people.
Printer guys are like
printing
like a storm right now.
They're printing comments. They're responding.
he's dug out the extra printer.
Yeah, I'm a Giza. I don't print anything. What do I know? I don't know nothing. What do you want?
No, they're gonna give us the Kodak, the film versus digital thing. They're gonna hit us with.
We're Blockbuster.
I'm gonna 100%. Yeah, we're Blockbuster. We're Kodak film, whatever.
Oh man, I wish we talked about that more in this video because that would be fun.
Those guys are already mid-sentence. Yeah.
We're just slinging DVDs. What the hell do we know?
What do we know?
Just blind to the oblivion that awaits us. Because a kit of models and a box of Legos, those are DVDs. Those are technology that will go out of date.
Yeah.
Same thing, dude.
Same thing. Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoyed our couple minutes of garbage time at the end.
It's a little bit light this week on garbage. Last week was full of garbage.
Yeah, you should be happy. There's so much content. Spicy takes, though, I think. I think there's going to be some things people disagree with. But, like I'll always say, we can only tell you what we've experienced and what we've kind of learned over the years, right? Yeah. And ultimately, like, when people say, why aren't you doing this? It's like, well, we're gambling with our money.
Yeah.
Right? Like we have to make the decision. Like it's not your money.
Exactly.
Hey, if you want to invest, let's talk. But
sure.
It's not your money. It's easy to say something when it's not your money, right? Well, we hope you enjoyed this spicy video about 3D printers. We know we did. We love
tied to Trench Crusade.
Tiny bit of Trench Crusade thrown in there. And if you like this kind of video, you can go back and watch our original Trench Crusade video that was last week. I think that was a good one. And if you like these kind of videos, we do a couple a week, and you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/lordsofwargamesandhobbies. Until next time, take care.
Thanks, bye.